Let me start our discussion about urinogenital system part 2. Evolution of urogenital duct. Male urinogenital duct cyclostomes. Male genital ducts present. Sperm are shed into cilium and exit via abdominal pore. The archinephric ducts drain the kidneys exclusively. Meaning, yung dito daw po sa cyclostomes, wala silang genital duct, kaya sa abdominal pores lumalabas yung sperm. Tapos yung daanan po ng ihi palabas ay yung archinephric duct. Anamniotes. The opisthenephros or mesonephros is differentiated into anterior genital and posterior renal portions. In the anterior genital portion in males, some uniquirus tubules lose excretory function from slender vasa efferentia and become continuous with seminiferous tubules of the adjacent testes. They serve to convey sperm of testes to the mesonephric duct of female. Thus, in male anamniotes, mesonephric or Wolffian duct forms a urinogenital duct serving both as a vas deferens for sperm as well as ureter for urine. However, in many elasmobranch, accessory urinary ducts drain urine from kidney to cloaca so that the mesonephric duct serves entirely or mainly as vas deferens. The anterior genital part of kidney along with the part of mesonephric duct forms an epididymis. In the embryos of Anura, each testis is made two portions. The anterior portion disappears and the posterior portion becomes the adult functional testis. In adult male toad, the anterior portion also persists as the feeder's organ, containing large cells similar to immature ova. Dito po sa anamniotes, ina-explain yung anterior genital portion ng anamniotes kung paano siya mag-function, which is by serving as the pathway for urine and also as a part of the seminiferous tubules and soon part ng epididymis. However, most toads or elasmobranchs nawawala po yung function niya na maglabas ng ihi. Then, nako-consider na siya as vas deferens ng hayop. Yung epididymis naman po ay consisted of anterior genital part tsaka ng mesonephric duct. Tapos yung sa huli po, sabi lang na yung embryos of Anura has two portions in each testis, which consists of anterior and posterior portions. Tapos habang tumatanda o lumalaki po sila, nawawala yung anterior or harapang part ng testis tapos yung nagiging functional testis in adult ay yung posterior part. Next report.
So next is the amniotes. Amniotes are a breed of tetrapod vertebrates comprising the reptiles, birds, and mammals, and they are characterized by having an egg equipped with amnion, an adaptation to lay eggs on land or retain the fertilized egg with the mother. So in reptiles, birds, and mammals, they have three types of kidneys. These are the pronephros, mesonephros, and metanephros. So let's start with propenephros. This is the anteriorly located propenephros appears during very early development, but it soon degenerates kasi magiging useless na siya because madedevelop na yung mesonephros. With that, the more posterior mesonephros then develop, and the mesonephros will develop as the embryonic kidney in reptiles, birds, and mammals. So after nun, kapag yung duct pala ng pronephros, yun yung pumapalit sa mesonephros or siya yung nagpe-persist para maging mesonephros duct. So after nun, kapag may duct na yung mesonephros, hindi pa yun yung permanent kidney because the mesonephros will only persist for a time, but it will degenerate because the metanephros then will begin to develop. Metanephros is the permanent kidney in reptiles, birds, and mammals, and it develops as the adult fully functional excretory organ with its own urinary duct and or ureter to transport the kidney. Metanophore is the only portion of the kidney that performs excretion, and like amniotes, humans' kidney is also metanephros. Thus, mesonephric or Wolffian duct becomes solely a genital duct or the vas deferens. Yung Wolffian duct, tinatawag din siyang mesonephric duct kasi yung duct ng mesonephric ay doon din nag-form yung Wolffian duct. The Wolffian duct plays a crucial role sa kidney development as it's one of a pair of tubes that carry urine from primitive or embryonic kidney to the exterior or a primitive bladder. The remnants then ng embryonic mesenophore, and a cold portion of mesonephric adult. Mesonephric duct became the epididymis of the adult kidney. So each sperm, magpapass through muna sila sa epididymis kasi dun sila nakastore or dun sila galing, and they would go sa vas deferens or sa Wolffian duct, and mag-exit sila in our body through the urethra. Next is the female oviducts. So, both the branchiostoma and cyclostome ay wala silang genital ducts. So, yung oviduct, ito ay tinatawag ding fallopian or uterine tube. It is the passageway through which the ovum passes from the ovary to the uterine cavity. In all vertebrates and embryos, except cyclostome, the coelomic epithelium on the outside of mesonephric duct develops as a groove which becomes closed to form a tube called Mullerian duct. So yung Mullerian duct, it is the embryonic structure that develops into the female reproductive tract, including the oviduct and the uterus. So the female reproductive tract has essential functions in mammals for providing the site of fertilization, embryo implantation, and fetal development. As you can see from the picture, yung mga broken lines sa gilid, ayan yung Mullerian and Wolffian duct na nagdegenerate in both sexes. Sa mga adult males, nagiging functionless and vestigial na yung Mullerian duct kasi hindi naman nila kailangan ng oviduct or ng female organs, while in adult females, yung Mullerian duct, it grows larger and becomes the female genital duct or the oviduct. So you can see, magkaiba yung duct ng male and female. Sa male, Wolffian duct yung nagpa-function sa kanila, while sa female naman ay Mullerian duct. So sa mga male anamniotes and amniotes, the Wolffian duct on each side forms the epididymis, the vas deferens, and the seminal vesicle, kaya yung Mullerian duct nila ay nagde-degenerate na. While on the other hand, the Mullerian duct on female amniotes forms oviducts and uterus, whereas their Wolffian duct degenerate. But in an amniote female adult, both the Wolffian and Mullerian duct are present. Next report.
Urinogenital system of fishes. In elasmobranchs or fishes that compose of cartilaginous bones and lungfishes or snake body-like fishes, the Mullerian duct is formed differently by the longitudinal splitting of the pronerpic duct, which is yung pronerpic duct ay for the development of kidneys, and it has 4 regions. First is yung funnel. Yung function ng funnel is to receive the ova from the ovary or yung single cell. Next is yung shell gland, which is to secrete albumin and mucus or eggshell around it. Next is isthmus. That function is to connect the shell gland to the uterus, and yung uterus ay yung nutritionally support embryos if they are held in the oviduct for an extended period. Parang sila yung nag-hold, ganun. Tapos yung oviducts, pwede silang mag-join ng sabay ni cloaca or yung outlet, or pwede din magkahiwalay. Yung oviducts na yun is yung tube na dinadaanan or passage ng ovum or egg galing sa ovary. Tapos next is yung teleos fishes. Teleos fishes have a short oviduct that starts directly from the ovaries. Yung teleos fishes ay sila naman yung mga fin fishes. Tapos they are not Mullerian ducts and are often called egg ducts. Tapos there is no cloaca in teleos. Tapos ayan yung example ng urogenital system ng female and male fishes. Next is amphibians. Mullerian ducts functions as oviducts. Meaning yung, 'di ba yung Mullerian duct, sabi nga kanina ni ovary is the embryonic structure that develops into the female reproductive tract, or iyon din yung responsible for endocrine systems and other system. Tapos, they are long and convoluted. Tapos, for posteriorly, each oviduct dilates from uterus ovisac that open independently into cloaca. Tapos, ito naman yung example ng urogenital system of the frog. Ayan. Sa female din siya, tapos sa male. Yun lang, next report.
Remnants of mesonephros may persist in larval stages as provarium, but adults have metanephric kidneys that drain excessively by new paired ducts. The ureters, also known as the metanephric ducts, ang purpose nila ay mag-filter ng waste products sa circulation. The oviducts, also known as Mullerian ducts, persist in their roles of transporting ova from the ovaries and supporting the embryo while it is in transit. So, reptiles, the oviducts are long and open into the coelom by a large slit like ostium. The right oviduct is shorter than the left in snakes. Posteriorly, the oviducts dilate to form shell gland or ovisac and open independently into the cloaca. Upper parts of oviduct have glandular lining, crocodilians, chelonians, sphinodon that secrete albumin all over the egg. Yun yung egg white ng albumin. Many reptiles have cloacal glands also, which release secretion with nauseating odor as a defensive role. Ayun. Next reporter.
So next naman sa class Aves or class Aves. So sa mga ibon naman, meron yung parehong oviduct nila nag-a-appear siya sa embryo. Pero usually in most birds, yung left Mullerian duct lang yung nagiging functional or nagde-develop. Yung left oviduct ng mga ibon ay mahaba, muscular at convoluted. So in most birds, yung left oviduct ay responsable sa pagbuo ng shelled egg na binubuo ng 5 basic components. Yun yung infundibulum, magnum, isthmus, uterus or shell gland, and vagina. Yan. So yung infundibulum, yan yung proximal opening ng oviduct na nagsiserve bilang tagatanggap ng ova or ng egg cells na nare-released from the ovary. Next, yung magnum, yan yung site kung saan yung majority ng albumin ay dinadagdag sa egg, which it takes about 3 hours. Yung sunod, yung isthmus, yan yung site kung saan na-form yung shell membranes, yung inner and outer. Tapos, yung uterus o shell gland, dito na nag-hardened yung shell niya. Tapos, it stays there for 21 hours. Tapos, yung last component, yung vagina, yun yung conduit o yung lalabasan ng egg. Next ay mammals. Mammals have paired oviducts. So, bawat oviducts na yan ay muscular walled conducts na nag-extend from the ovaries to the uterus. Bawat oviduct na yun ay merong anterior narrow fallopian tube at posterior wide uterus. Tinatawag din siyang uterine tube or fallopian tube. Yung fallopian tube, it opens into coelom by an ostrum na napapaligiran ng fimbriae. Tapos yung uteri or womb, it ends in vagina through cervix. However, sa mga monotremes, mga very unusual type of animal, yung left oviduct lang nila yung functional. Yun lang po. Next report.
So for the types of uteri in mammals, we have 4: duplex, bipartite, bicornuate, and simplex. So for the first one, we have duplex uterus. For this type, it says that 2 wholly separate uteri with 1 fallopian tube each, which opens into the vagina. The absent or limited fusion of the Mullerian ducts leads to the presence of the 2 uteri. The duplex uterus shown here has a pair of cervix. So basically, in duplex, they have 2 uterus and they have their own cervix also. And they will both match to the vagina specifically the single vagina. So, this can be found in elephants, many rodents, and some bats. And that is for the duplex type of uterus. Then the second type is bipartite. In bipartite, the two uteri separate for most of their length. So unlike in duplex, which have their own cervix, for bipartite, they just share a single cervix. Then Mullerian fusion in the uterine region does not occur, or we can say limited, which leads to the formation of a pair of uterine horns that can support the development of many fetuses. So basically, in this case, you have two uterus but one cervix only. But in the cervix, we have a septum between them. And when we say septum, it's the partition separating the two chambers. And then the example for this can be carnivorous mammals. Next. And like what I've been said, it can be found in most carnivores, also in pigs and cattle, and in some rodents and few bats. And for the last two types, it will be discussed by our next reporter.
So for number 3, we have bicornuate uterus. These are uteri which are over half used or yung may indentation sa top, kaya nagbumukhang heart shape yung figure. At iyan yung itsura ng bicornuate uterus. Makikita to sa mammals such as rabbits, whales, sheep, insectivores o yung mga animals na kumakain ng insects. Example na lang ito ay yung mga hedgehogs. At makikita rin ang gantong uteri in most bats, also in some carnivores, at sa mga hoof mammals, also called as ungulates. Example nito could be seen in deers. So, pag sinabing bicornuate uterus, mayroon tong two horns, or in anatomical terms, cornua, in which the young develops, or doon nga nag-attach yung isang fetus. And since this type of uterus have two horns, it may have two totally separate passageways within the body of the uterus, although hindi discernible or hindi nakikita from the external view. One horn may be larger and longer than the other, at sa horn na ito nga nag-implant yung blastocyst or yung embryo, even though both ovaries in the uterus can produce viable eggs naman. Kung makikita nyo, isa yung example ng pregnancy sa dolphins na nakaklasify na may bicornuate uterus. At kagaya nga ng sinabi ko kanina, sa longer and larger horn, typically nag-attach yung blastocyst sa uterus. So, kung i-observe nga natin yung picture, nasa isang side nga lang talaga nag-develop yung calves. May records din na with humans na may babae na unfortunately may bicornuate uterus, which is abnormal by the way, since matakal natin sa next part yung normal uterus for humans. Pero para mas maliwanagan kayo further about this type, ito yung itsura ng bicornuate uterus sa humans. Once na may nangyaring implantation at kapag pregnant na. And as you can see, sa isang horn ng uterus which seems to be longer and larger, naka-attach yung embryo or kaya yung fetus. At makikita nga na parang pa-heart shape talaga yung pag bicornuate. Next is the simplex uterus. These are the uteri that are completely fused or walang separation between the horns, thus a single chamber. At yan naman yung itsura ng simplex uterus. Unlike ng uterus na prenasan kanina, wala siyang indentation sa top part. Makita to sa mammals such as armadillos, apes, at humans. In this type of uterus, yung fusion nag-i-start or it commences at the ends of short oviducts at wala ang uterine horns. Yung oviducts, dyan nagsisimula yung pag-merge ng uterus. Nag-implant naman yung blastocyst sa body ng uterus. Ella, pakituro yung middle part ng uterus. Ayan, dyan nag-implant yung blastocyst. At unlike nga nung sa bicornuate uterus, kanina nasa isang horn or sa side nag-attach. At additionally, sa simplex uterus, there is only one fetus per pregnancy, except sa armadillos since they give a birth to identical quadruplets. And that's it for the uteri in mammals. Next reporter.
So here are the things that you must remember in our topic about urinogenital system. I will just add a little information from what my groupmates has said earlier. So pronephric duct is the first epithelial structure formed within the intermediate mesoderm. It is also called or is renamed as mesonephric or Wolffian or opistomephric duct because it extends caudally till the end of the coelom or the posterior part of the body located between the intestinal canal and the body wall. They may have different names but all the same structure. So if this duct persists and continue firmly, it is then called pronephric duct. However, when it extends, this duct is now called mesonephric duct. In males, this duct transports sperm and is then called the vas deferens. Vas deferens is part of the male reproductive system that transports sperms from the epididymis to the ejaculatory ducts. In females, it is known embryologically as the Wolffian duct. As I said earlier, if the pronephric duct extends caudally, it is then called the Wolffian duct. It is actually developed both in male and female embryo. However, they subsequently regress in females while they are stabilized by testosterone in male. The metanephric duct is commonly renamed as the ureter. Ureter is a tube that carries urine from the kidney to the urinary bladder. Just like what my groupmate said earlier, metanephros persists as the adult or permanent kidney. So its duct is renamed as ureter. In males, the Mullerian duct regresses, but in females, it becomes the oviducts of the reproductive system. During gestation, the Wolffian duct is formed, which generates male reproductive organs and kidney. Mullerian duct then elongates caudally along with the Wolffian duct. Wolffian duct is required for the formation of Mullerian duct. Mullerian duct gives rise to female reproductive organs such as the oviducts and the uterus. The archinephric or mesonephric ducts tend to function only within the urinary system. The Mullerian duct arises embryologically next to the archinephric or the Wolffian duct. As you already know, archinephric duct is also called as the Wolffian duct. It is a pair of tubes that carry urine from primitive or embryonic kidneys to the exterior primitive bladder. And this is the overview of the ducts discussed in our report for the urinogenital system. We have these three ducts in number 1, the archinephric, 2 pronephric duct, 2 mesonephric duct or the Wolffian duct. They are all called the Wolffian duct and is called the vas deferens when we refer to the male genital system. The second is the Mullerian duct or the oviduct in female genital system. And lastly is the metanephric duct, which is also the ureter or the urinary duct. With this, I'd like to end our topic on the urinogenital system. We hope you understand and learn from us. Thank you for listening.